Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Snow. I'm a member of the Alcock and Brown 100th Anniversary Committee, and I'll be your MC for today's proceedings. MP Dick Whalen, John Bernard Davis, distinguished guests, members of the Alcock and Brown 100th Anniversary Committee, invited guests. This is a very special day, and I'm delighted that you're able to join us here for the official launch of the Alcock and Brown 100th Anniversary celebrations. As many of you probably already know, at 1:45 p.m. on June 14, 1919, 100 years ago almost, the famous duo of Alcock and Brown took off from Lester's Field right here in St. John's, barely clearing the treetops with their fuel-laden Vickers Vimy, and quite literally flew into the history books. They crash-landed less than 16 hours later on a bog in Clifton, Connemara, County Galway, Ireland, to complete the first ever non-stop transatlantic flight. Thanks to the efforts of David Hebard, a videographer, aviation enthusiast, and key member of the Alcock and Brown 100th Anniversary Committee, we'd like to show you a short compilation of some of the rare photos and the archival video footage of the actual takeoff. David's asked me to ensure that we acknowledge Larry Dowie, who I see is here, from the rooms who are helping him acquire this footage, and also the Centre for Newfoundland Studies for their support in accessing some of the photographic assets from the Carter family collection.
I saw the sky once for long enough to fix our position by the stars.
Before I continue, I'd like to pass along regrets from both Bill Mahoney and Jim Burton, who are the co-founders of the Aviation History Newfoundland and Labrador and the co-chairs of the Alcock and Brown 100th Anniversary celebrations. These gentlemen were not able to be in St. John's today due to prior commitments, but let me assure you, they're here in spirit. Both Bill and Jim have given tirelessly of their time and energy to see these celebrations get off the ground. I'd like to also mention Gary Hebard, David Hebard, and a few other committee members who've been a long time trying to get this off the ground, so thank you guys as well. And I might add that both Bill and Jim have provided some of the seed money necessary to get this thing kicked off. That shows a real strong commitment to these celebrations. At the risk of leaving somebody out, I'd like to quickly introduce you to the planning team behind the Alcock and Brown 100th Anniversary celebrations. Bill Mahoney, Jim Burton, June Perry, Gary Hebard, Marie Manning, Larry Dowie, Manette LeDrew, David Hebard, David Patton, Rick O'Neill, Rudy Turing, Sheila Leary, Maurice Murphy, Dr. Mike Deal, Peter Soucy, and Nicole Tedford. I just want to extend my personal thanks to each of my fellow committee members for lending their time and expertise to this important celebration. I'll be calling on much more of your expertise as well, and I'm sure Bill and Jim will as well, so thank you. As remarkable as the story of Alcock and Brown's first transatlantic flight is, and what they fought for and fought through for those 16 hours is by no means nothing short of remarkable. Their accomplishment also marked the beginning of a much larger story. In many ways, what we are celebrating is the spirit of adventure and the drive to succeed that in this instance marked the beginning of a commercial aviation industry. An industry with many firsts involving Newfoundland and Labrador. Firsts that can continue to inspire us if we choose to look at them through the right lens and continue to factor aviation into our future. And that's why Bill Mahoney and Jim Burton have established Aviation History Newfoundland and Labrador as an ongoing not-for-profit organization. It's an organization that can continue to support other groups and organizations in shining an even brighter light on our rich aviation history. While many people have a cursory knowledge of Newfoundland and Labrador's aviation history, few people know the depth and breadth of it, and its significance in the larger evolution of the commercial aviation industry and transatlantic flight. Without going too far into this now, suffice it to say that the stories of Amelia Earhart, the heady times of the Pan Am Clippers, loaded with movie stars and celebrities landing in Botwood Harbour, and the many, many remarkable stories of Gander's role in establishing the transatlantic industry, in helping change the course of the Second World War, and more recently 9/11. These are all important pillars of our rich history. A history that presents a treasure trove of stories on which to shape an aviation tourism product and to continue to recognize the importance of our aviation industry today. What are the celebrations for this year? Thanks to great ideas provided by our committee and an enthusiastic response from just about everybody we've spoken with, we have a great agenda for the celebrations, and we will be rolling these celebrations out in 2 phases, broadly grouped as lead-up activities and secondly as anniversary celebrations. There are also some legacy pieces that we're working on as well. And there are coincidental events being planned by others. For example, this year, from June 24th to 26th, the St. John's International Airport Authority is hosting the Altitude East Industry Conference right here in St. John's. This year, the Air Cadet League of Canada is hosting their AGM right here in St. John's, coincident with the 100th anniversary. The lead-up events and activities have been organized to engage the public and build excitement around the centennial celebrations. And I can say that there was a lot of discussion around the table about public education and what we could do to let more of the public know about what was going on and our rich history. An aviation speaker series where we'll be bringing in a number of aviation historians to discuss Alcock and Brown and also Newfoundland and Labrador's role in the golden age of aviation history is planned. And given that Canadian's aviation industry is expected to see a deficit of 3,000 pilots and 55,000 aircraft workers by 2025, we'll also bring in at least one speaker to discuss the future of the aviation industry and opportunities for our young men and women. The general format of the speaker series is interesting as well. A public lecture, a radio crosstalk program with our media partner CBC, where people can call in and ask questions but also share their stories. When time permits, these speakers will do school visits as well. I'm pleased to report that retired RAF pilot, historian, and closest living relative of Sir John Alcock is one of those speakers, and he will be in here in May at a time to be announced. In addition, we will be engaging a committee of local aviation historians to work with an interpretive planner and a graphic designers to develop a highly portable traveling exhibit designed to engage our more remote communities. And some of the photos that you saw from David Hebert and I know Gary has captured a lot of information, and what we want to do is provide an opportunity for these people to put that information together and again share it around the province. We'll be announcing a Spirit of Flight essay contest for junior high and high school students, and because the Air Cadet League is having their annual general meeting here, we're going to be providing an award for the Air Cadet Speak Off. The Alcock and Brown Centennial celebrations themselves will begin in earnest on June 12th, beginning with a festival that will be hosted in partnership with George Street Association, and which will include a kickoff reception and an all-ages outdoor concert. I'd like to give a shout out to Jonathan Galgay and the George Street Association for coming on board to do this. Not sure if Jonathan is here in the room, but I do understand that one of their members is planning to produce a commemorative beer for the Alcock and Brown celebrations. I'd also like to thank the Downtown Development Association for agreeing to flag the poles on the streets of downtown with the Alcock and Brown branding for the summer. They were very generous in doing that. So look out for the Alcock and Brown anniversary flags and the cool merchandising and swag that we expect these downtown stores will be carrying in short order. We'd also like to thank the City of St. John's for coming on board to host an afternoon reception open to the public on June the 14th on the anniversary date, probably right around the hour that Alcock and Brown took off. There will also be a formal aviators ball taking place in St. John's at the St. John's Convention Center on the night of the 14th. Special guests to be announced. We're also planning a commemorative flight to Ireland and hoping to resurrect the original Newfoundland Post mailbag to again carry first aid covers from here to Ireland and letters from students in our schools to their pen pals over in Ireland. We may even be trading our commemorative beer for theirs and having the Lord Mayors of St. John's and Clifton swapping a bottle of seaweed gin for a bottle of Irish whiskey, so stay tuned. In addition, to engage our arts community, we are planning a commemorative stage performance. We will come out with a commemorative print, and we will be hosting a public garden party in July using a cross-section of our local performers. Again, dates to be announced. Ladies and gentlemen, to be able to pull together a program like this takes partnership and financial support from private sector and public sector partners who are not only recognize the significance of the accomplishment, but the economic potential of our aviation history as a travel and tourism generator. It's another reason to come to this province and to explore the many communities that host a piece of that history. Communities like Trepassey, Harbour Grace, Botwood, Gander, Goose Bay, Stephenville, Mount Pearl, and the list goes on. I'd like to call upon MP Nick Whalen to bring comments and greetings from the Government of Canada. Thank you.
Congratulations, Paul, and thanks for spearheading this. You know, it's wonderful to be able to be here in this historic venue itself, here at the RCAF Club. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance, but if you can go check out some of the memorabilia in the museum on the other side of the club, you can see that Newfoundland does indeed have a rich aviation history, something to be celebrated, and this was such an authentic and easy project to get behind. I know over the last couple of weeks, people were anxiously awaiting approval from Minister Baines, and we received that, so that's wonderful. And I'm very glad to be here on his behalf. Minister Reagan was also very supportive of this project, and of course all the Newfoundland and Labrador MPs. And here we are for this great day. The place is ideal. And of course the people involved in this project really bring their aviation and historical perspective and the arts perspective to make sure this will be a wonderful celebration. The province's rich aviation history, of course, is important, but we're also looking to the future. And as you'd mentioned, the future of aviation will have its challenges. We're looking to get more people into aviation. There will be a real gap and lack of pilots in the years to come, and certainly women pilots. We encourage the participation of the Air Cadets in helping us fill that gap, but by reminding Newfoundlanders of our rich aviation history, we can encourage young people to get involved and pursue their dreams in the skies. And so thank you for bringing this to our attention, and we're so happy to partner with you in it. Cheers. I forgot the most important part. ACOA is providing $257,000 to help sponsor this event. Provides about the number, I guess, is something that people might be interested in. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you so much, Nick, and please pass on to our friends at ACOA and your minister how much we appreciate the help and the support we've received. And I know that Manuel and Amanda are here, and I want to thank you guys for being so easy to work with getting this together. Ladies and gentlemen, from the beginning of our discussions, we've had great cooperation from the province. And given some of the future forward elements we built into these celebrations, I'm very pleased to invite the Honourable Bernard Davis, Minister of Advanced Education, Skills and Labour, to bring remarks from the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Minister Davis.
That's the first, I think, for Nick now Nelson Mully. But it is a fitting location. We're here today at 150 RCAF North Atlantic Wing. Happens to be in the most historic district of Virginia Waters Pleasantville, which I happen to be so lucky to represent. But more importantly, what they actually do in this facility. They actually sponsor an Air Cadet Squadron, which is fantastic. I came up through the cadet movement myself. I understand the importance that it gives to young people. So thank you for choosing to highlight this area right here. This must be an aviation day. About an hour ago, I left Provincial Airlines, PAL hangar, where we made an announcement with respect to some of the things Paul just discussed about MRO, the deficiency that's in the marketplace. We're conducting a study worth $200,000 to determine how we can grow the industry with respect to, we already have a booming MRO industry in here, maintenance, repair and overhaul. We have the reverse of Fort Mac happening in this province. Provincial Airlines flies in more than 60 on a continuous basis on a turnaround to do work on aircraft in this province. So in this city, there's a perfect opportunity for us to do training for our young people to get involved in this industry, and we look forward to chatting with Paul and others about opportunities that we can as a provincial government get involved in. Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly a pleasure to be here to get set to celebrate the centennial of Alcock and Brown's adventure across the Atlantic. Alcock and Brown's successful transatlantic flight marked the beginning of long-distance air travel, and it marked the integral role Newfoundland and Labrador would play in the development of the commercial aviation industry worldwide. An aviation history that includes renowned flyers like we've seen on the board here, Amelia Earhart, Charles Lindbergh, the Battle of Pan Am Clippers, or the strategic importance of Gander during World War II, and the essential role played in the transatlantic flight paths. Today's kickoff of the drive to commemorate and recognize the 100th anniversary of Alcock and Brown transatlantic flight on June 14th, 1919. The provincial government, in addition to ACOA, and Nick so eloquently announced the ACOA money of $257,000, we're in for a little less. I always like coming to events with Nick because Nick brings the big check, I bring the medium-sized check, and we're quite happy about that. But I'm very pleased to provide $100,000 to the Aviation History NL in support of planning activities to commemorate the historic flight in 1919. And just like Nick mentioned, we're glad to be a part of it. We love celebrating our history, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to do so. So thank you very much. I look forward to June 14th and all the festivities that will come around that. And thank you for the great work for the many people that have made this happen today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Davis, and please pass on our appreciation to Minister Mitchell Moore and his staff for their cooperation, and to the Premier for lending his personal support to this project. In line with the notion that we're still writing our aviation history and have come a long way from taking off from Lester's Field, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Keith Collins, President and CEO of the St. John's International Airport Authority, who is here in the room today. The St. John's International Airport is a critical part of our economic infrastructure, and the Airport Authority has been a strong supporter of this project from day one. I'd also like to note that Marie Manning, despite her busy schedule, has been a valuable contributor to our planning process. Keith, on behalf of Bill, Jim, and all the people involved in these celebrations, we want to thank you, Marie, and the Board of the Airport Authority for your substantial commitment in supporting this extremely important project. I won't say there's more to come, but I will tell you that there is more to come. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal proceedings here today. We'll be available to answer any questions, and we have one of our historians here, Gary Hebert, who's here to answer those questions that I will stumble over and I'll promise not to BS you about. I'll just hand you over to Gary. So thank you all for coming, and again, Minister Davis, Nick, on behalf of everybody who's been involved in this planning, this is something that's been long overdue in the heads of a lot of people, and we're so happy to finally get it kicked off the ground, so thank you.